right, everybody. We've got another very special guest for you all. I want everyone to welcome to the show CJ Hudson. Welcome, CJ.
Hey
Hey,
guys, thanks for having me.
yeah, thanks for being here. At first he wasn't sure that it was actually the right mic or the right show because I shaved my beard like an hour ago. So the picture doesn't match the face for me anymore. But I'm glad you can make it. Glad you're here, and we always put people through the gauntlet for the first time in the show. So we're going to do the same to you with your
Nice.
origin story in comics. Sorry to do it to you, but let's hear it, and then talk about all those fantastic books you've done that you want to talk about and plug. So we'll hear it.
Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate it again. Yeah. So for comics, it's, like I think a lot of people, I started really young, started reading, probably around age 8 or 10. My first comic I'll never forget was, God, is it Wolverine 79 where he's fighting Sauron on the cover?
Oh,
It's a pretty
yeah,
great cover. And I can't
yep.
remember the number exactly, but I still have that issue. It's all tattered and torn. And since then, it's just been, in love with it. And like any fan of comics, I think a lot of people that are fans are like, I'd like to do this. I have a story in me, right? I'd like to tell something, even if it's just like a singular story. I think every fan kind of has that dream of telling their own story. I think comics does that for people more than novels, more than TV shows or movies. For some reason, comics just connects with people on that level. And so I've
Hmm.
always wanted to create. And then in 2018, I formed a creative studio with my then partner and Warn Everyone Comics, and we started developing original content with the idea that we wouldn't publish it, but we would pursue relationships with publishers and put out original content, and also work with media companies and create original content for them too. So we've done that a little bit, working with like Ad Astra Media on a webtoon for them. I'm doing some work for Woven Press for a work for hire basis. And then also we started doing our own creator-owned series too. The first one was Interstellar Dust, which is kind of a great story because I decided to crowdfund it at first. It hit 10% of goal, didn't do shit. I was terrible at marketing, didn't know how to use Twitter or anything like that. And it looks like a really good comic. I'm really proud of it, but I just couldn't get any traction. Decided to print some self-published copies, sent it out to a dozen publishers. All of them said no. And it wasn't that it wasn't necessarily good. They said it's that it wasn't right for them on a specific level. But one came back and said yes, and that was Antarctic Press. And kind of
Nice.
the rest is history. I've just been kind of rolling ever since then, working with Antarctic on Interstellar Dust. The second volume is going to come out later in this year after we release the trade paperback to the first volume. Working with Band of Bards on a number of titles, Vigia, and which is in stores now, and Lycan, which comes out in March. That's my werewolf story, which is kind of fun. And yeah, and then some other anthology work too. So been pretty busy the last couple years developing stuff. And then also, I don't know why, I decided to curate an anthology and throw that together. And now it's up on Kickstarter right now, Amongst the Stars.
So let's start with you have some books in shops right now, and then you got a trade coming. A lot of your stuff, from what I've seen, is sci-fi, right? Is that something you've just always felt comfortable doing, or
Yeah, I
there's
love
yeah,
sci-fi and fantasy. Grew up reading a lot of sci-fi fantasy novels, and it's not like I don't like superheroes. I read a lot of superheroes. I'm a reader like I'm a writer. I was just reading Spawn before I came in here.
nice.
So I read all that stuff, but let's be honest, it's a saturated market, right? Like
Yeah, for
you've got
sure.
to
Yep.
really know superheroes. You've got to really have good marketing behind it to actually cut through anything that DC or Marvel are doing. I am working with Epic Fantasy, Devin Arscott's publisher, on a superhero right now, which I think will be kind of fun. We're going to kickstart it later, but mainly just wanted to focus on books that I felt like could sell.
Hmm.
And fantasy, sci-fi, horror, shit, anything except superheroes has a chance in
Yeah,
the market. But
yeah.
I see some superhero stuff doing good that's not the big two, but it has to have a specific look and feel to it. It has to look really, really good. And it almost has to have kind of an adult spin to it too. Lots of covers, lots of different options. So yeah, that's mainly the focus is what's marketable right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, for
Does
sure.
it feel like the indie superhero space has to be like a what if story? Like, what if Superman killed somebody, or something
Yeah.
along those lines? Does
Yeah.
that the feeling you get from the indie superhero market?
I think it has to be darker for sure. I think that's kind of what people are looking at. Like, here's my take on Superman, or here's my take on Batman, but I don't own the rights to them. So here's me pushing out this type of story, and some of them can be really good and really interesting. I think it's just hard for people that are so familiar with their established superheroes that they love to take a chance on something, but for non-established things in fantasy and sci-fi, it's really easy to take a chance because there's nothing that's like super established outside of Conan or Star Wars or things that have always been published in comics, right? So it's really easy for me to pick up something like I just picked up Whatnot's Liquid Kill. Really, really cool, visually stunning comic. And I just picked it off the shelf because I remembered seeing it. And it's an easy investment for me because I'm so unfamiliar with it. But a superhero, for whatever reason, in the back of our minds, we're like, well, I don't know who the hell this is. They're not fighting Joker. They're not, this isn't the X-Men. So I'm not that invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
for people.
I feel like as a regular reader too, like I read so much DC and Marvel that when I pick up indie, kind of the last thing I want is like, here's my take on Batman, or here's my
Yeah.
take on Daredevil.
Unless I'm reading Wrong Earth, then where it's 60s Batman and Dark Knight together.
Yeah, there's exceptions, obviously, but
Yeah, and that's an
Yeah.
example of somebody that found a little niche, right? That they could exploit and like, hey, here's kind of this 60s Batman approach, and it's a good comic book. So, I mean, it can be done. You just have to find that spin to it. Um, but I've got plenty of other things that I'm working on that are mainly sci-fi and fantasy, even a western that I'm invested in. So it's like if I'm not gonna probably spend a ton of my time pursuing something that I just feel like is an upward battle, like an upward climb for me, in a long battle where it's so easy for a publisher to pick up a comic in sci-fi or fantasy if it looks good. A superhero, I've heard from a number of them where they're like, this is tough. This is a tough sell.
Mm-hmm. And before we talk about Amongst the Stars, you did mention Lycan, and that's a werewolf book. So
yeah, that's
how does that fit in to everything?
Yeah, so that's a horror comic that I'm doing as a one shot that hopefully can expand into a larger universe. It's black and white, mostly with some blood in there, some red in there that Mary put in. Mary Landrow's the artist from Frankenstein, a Kickstarter that came out, and trying to think what else she just released her own Kickstarter on yeah, and that's done really well too. But yeah, I wanted to do a horror comic. I had this idea about werewolves with kind of a twist where it was three women who are part of this werewolf pack that leave their pack and they're living normal lives in suburban Colorado.
Okay.
And they're just kind of going about their lives trying to blend in to society, but their past catches up with them, and so a lot of things kind of unfold over the course of this one shot, which is kind of a primer to set up this universe. And hopefully we can tell more because I have a lot of other one shots that can kind of go along with it, or maybe true mini series. But Band of Bards is kind of interested in more thicker books, so likely we might compile them into singular one shots and just release them that way. But the pre-order sales came in and they look really, really strong for them. So
Awesome.
I'm hopeful that we can keep going with Lycan.
Yeah, I've noticed that with Band of Bards, they like either short, like 1 or 2 issue series, or one shots, or they're sticking away from what seems to be the trend of the 4 or 6 issue series.
There's less investment needed. Print costs, as we know, right? Issue 1 can do great, and then the drop off to issue 2 can be horrendous. So if you're not hitting it out the gate with really good, strong numbers on that first issue, then you might have your series canceled halfway through. Where if it's a one-shot book with a thicker volume and a bigger price point, well, there's no risk in that, and there's really no risk on the consumer's part either, right? Because they're like, well, shit, it's just one comic. I'm not in this for 100 issues. I'll pick this up. So that number one plays with the consumer's mind too, right? Where it's like, oh, this is great. This is just an issue one. I'll pick this up, and they don't have to worry about issue two then, because there is no issue two. I'll release another one shot a couple months later, and it's just a continuation of the story.
Yeah, and as a consumer, I'm half and half on that because like I get the business part of it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it like really messes with me because then when let's say when I pick up like in issue one, like everybody else out there should,
Yep.
uh, when issue two comes out, which I'm sure it's gonna be like in the next moon number one or whatever you're gonna call it,
Yep. Exactly.
um, it gets missed in the shuffle sometimes. Which for me as a consumer, I'm like, wait, I didn't know Lycan had a sequel. What that? Where did it come? You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of half and half. I can see both sides of it.
Oh, totally. And that you have to do some good marketing behind it. Like we'd have to ensure that people aren't left in the dark on it. And we have to say like, hey, this is a continuation of like, and it picks up where, so issue one is like in Girls Night. And then issue, one, the next issue one would be, like a New Moon or whatever. And we
Yeah.
would have to market really well to say that this is a continuation of that story. And man, it's really just trying to find what sticks in the market. Like you look
Hmm.
at somebody like Whatnot, right? Like it's an auction app, and they came out swinging from a publishing standpoint. 110,000 copies of their debut issue with like 14 covers,
Yep.
and that in that one series, and then all these other series are doing great too, 50 plus thousand copies. So there's something there too with what they're doing from a marketing standpoint as well. And I don't know if it's the covers, or because I'm not familiar with a lot of the talent that they have on those books, but they're visually really, really cool looking too.
Hmm. Yeah.
What's funny to me is a lot of the talent they're having are people from Kickstarter. like,
Yeah.
Oh
like
yeah.
I know some of the talent there worked on people I know's books on Kickstarter. Like they're, and no offense to any of these people, but they're not names.
It's interesting, right?
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes to show like you maybe don't need name. Like they have names on their covers for some of them. Like, Kevin Eastman did a cover, but the
Yeah.
interior artist, the writer, I have no idea who the fuck they are. Like
Yeah.
it's
Right.
it's pretty crazy, but I picked up Liquid Kill because I was like, Whatnot seems to be doing really well. This art looks fantastic, and the cover is like it's hard to say no to.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I think every publisher is just trying to find what can stick in the market, and Band of Bards is trying to this like kind of thicker book approach right now, like one shots, 2 issue minis. Vigia, I think, is one that is a little bit rare since that's a 5 issue mini that I'm releasing through them, but they're not doing a whole lot of that.
and everybody out there, Band of Bards. I may put a lot of Philly stuff around me, but I'm New York through and through. So go support Band of Bards.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so now we're gonna change directions again because now you're getting involved with an anthology series. So
Yeah, yeah.
how did that come about? When did you think that was going to be a thing you wanted to do?
My friend Elise Russell, who wrote Sentience from Band of Bards, and I think Dark Side of Purity too. She curated that anthology. We decided we'd like to do an anthology together, and we wanted to do a whole submission process. We created a website, did open calls to a number of different creators, and said, let's put together a really good anthology. Had 140 submissions, whittled it down to 14 chosen stories. I'm one of those. As a curator, I did a short story with fantasy artist Sid Mills. And then we had 2 creators invited, Fellhound and Brent Fisher. And that was really to kind of start the submission process to show everybody, hey, we're serious. We have 2 really good indie creators behind us as invited contributors. Submit and let's see what we can throw together. And then when it was all said and done, we were really impressed with the talent that came through. Like anything I've been saying in all these podcasts, everything's like a bell-shaped curve, right? Like you're going to get some stories that absolutely suck. You're going to get a lot of pretty okay ones, and then you're going to get ones that are absolutely outstanding. And we were really impressed with the level of talent that we got. I would say we trended more towards, wow, there's some really good talent out there. But then it kind of came to a point where when you're putting an anthology together, how long do you want it to be and what stories complement each other? Like you two each might have submitted a story and they might be very similar in some ways and they're both very good, but maybe one of yours maybe complements the anthology a little bit more from what we're trying to accomplish. We saw a little bit of that too. But then when it was all said and done, Elise and I realized that, wow, we've never done a Kickstarter before. I did one, but it wasn't successful. We should partner with a publisher. So we outreached to Band of Bards, who's been publishing a number of our projects, obviously, and they agreed to be the publisher behind the scenes for it to help us with marketing and fulfillment.
And just for the record, everybody, mine and Mike's submission was terrible. We don't know romance, so
yeah, that was the problem.
So actually, that's where I wanted to go. Like, it's an anthology series. It's a sci-fi fiction romance anthology series. So you chose to do a niche inside a niche inside a niche inside a niche. So how'd you come down to that being what you wanted the anthology to be about?
It's kind of funny because like we were talking about sci-fi, I love sci-fi, and I thought, well, there's a number of creators that can get down with sci-fi that this would be attractive for them. And I said, but you know what I never see out there is romance. Like romance comics were so big back in like the 50s and like the 60s. There were all those old romance comics and really they don't exist anymore except maybe in like the Archie universe to some extent. You can kind of see those as romance comics. And so I was like, why don't we just put that out there and not give a whole lot of direction and just say it just has to fit the prompt. Like it has to be something about romance and it has to be science fiction related. And then Elise came up with the name and we just kind of went from there. We really just kind of shot from the hip with it because we were like, what haven't we seen? What would be interesting for people to get involved with? Horror is kind of almost getting to the point like it is with superheroes. It's really saturated right now. It sells, but there's so much of it out there. And there's a lot of sci-fi too, but we were like, I think there's something here with these two genres that would be really interesting. And that's really what it came to. It was just kind of a shoot from the hip. Like, what haven't we seen in the market in a long time, if ever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think I mean, we've had a lot of Kickstarters come through here, and I don't know if I've seen anything. Definitely sci-fi anthologies, but like romance, especially. And I think that is interesting, like putting it in the setting of like, there could be androids, there could be augmented reality, like whatever you want to do with any of that stuff. Like there's, the first thing that comes to my mind is the movie Her. So like anything like that, it can be like unsettling or like, oh wow, that's, that can be kind of like a pretty good romance story. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
The only other
pretty endless.
The only other comic recently has been Love Everlasting that I can think of.
Yeah, but nothing else. So let's talk about what you got going on. You got a lot of different covers, right, for this?
Yeah, got a lot of different covers. We got one from Rio Burton, who did As of the Barbed, coming out from Scout.
Yep.
We have one from Terry Suska, who's a great cover artist. We did one from Carolyn Leelane, who also has a story in there, but really fantastic artist. If you guys have ever read Money Shot, her work on there was really great. And then we decided to do a cosplay cover from Anamia, and just, really, really fun cosplay cover that she was willing to do. And I think she's done a lot for Dynamite recently and is also writing Red Sonja a little bit.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I wanted to give a lot of options out there for people. I think we were kind of like, one thing that anthologies or any kind of trade paperback or hardbound collection, they can suffer because they only have one cover option. And we decided if we had a couple, that might be a little bit more attractive.
Okay.
I think you got more than a couple here, man.
Yeah. This good.
More
and also one of the things that caught my eye was the Amongst the Stars mystery box. So that's a mystery reward. So can you talk about that at all, or like, do you know what's going into the
I don't even
box?
know what's in it. Bandable.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Oh,
really cool though. They've got,
okay.
there's some cool stuff in there. I'm sure, and they also have their digital Bard comics for life. So, I mean, as their inventory continues to grow, $250 sounds like a big investment. It is a big investment, but
Yeah.
basically you're guaranteeing yourself that you're going to get all their comics forever just by making an investment now in
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty
So
cool.
it's basically like it's more than going to pay for itself. Like it's a pretty crazy offer that I don't know that they'll do it again. But yeah, I highly encourage people to look at that, especially those that read digitally, because I mean, you're getting everything they're ever going to put out, and they're not going anywhere. They continue to sign new talent. They have stuff planned for years and years to come. Their books are doing well. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
highly encourage people that have liked their content to consider that.
Yeah, that is a really interesting idea, because especially for someone like me that reads digitally.
Yeah, and going through, because obviously with any Kickstarter, the fun is going through the rewards. And
Yeah.
listen, I'm a cheap son of a bitch. Like, don't get me wrong, but I like to go down to the expensive ones and see what's going on down here.
Yeah.
And I'm down here at the Universe Pledge, which is 500 or more. Everybody, you get a ton of stuff. You get all
Yep.
the covers. You get the digital thing that we just talked about. Listen, and right down in here, like hidden, you're giving away ATS pasties. Are we talking about like
Yeah.
nipple pasties here?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
nipple pasties, man. Come
Absolutely.
on,
Yeah.
that's worth the 500 alone. What are
Yeah.
people waiting for?
Yeah, you get pasties, stickers. There's different premium cover options that are included. So there's a lot of cool stuff that they're putting in there. And obviously, if people just want to, buy the standard book, it's a pretty competitive price too, for a 110 page anthology. So yeah, I think we've got options across the board, and also we have a number of people. Even if people are like strapped for cash or just want to donate to see the comic succeed, even $1 helps. I mean, if everybody who saw these tweets just gave us $1, we'd be funded by now. So what I'm
Yeah,
doing
for sure.
to incent
Yep.
people is I'm offering, if you just put in $1, I'm going to give you the first self-published edition of Interstellar Dust. I'm going to send it to you when we fund, and with that is the Simon Roy cover that he did for me, and that's never going to be reprinted. I'm a big proponent of, like, once we're done with a cover, we don't use it again, because I think it's helpful for the back market, for people to get it. And then it also helps us if we do another edition later, that other people might say, well, shit, I already have the other covers. I might as well get the new one too. So I will send you that. And then I think I said for $5, I'll send you like a 75 page volume of a little bit of all my work to date. So you're going to get a number of interior pages. You're going to get character designs and a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I've done. And then for $10, I'm going to give away 10 of my scripts to Interstellar Dust, Vigia, and a couple others in there too. So if people just want to donate a little bit just to see it succeed, I'm still going to give stuff away to help people entice them to donate.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a really great idea.
So we're talking about anthology here. I mean, you shouted out Fellhound, who we've had on the show. Love her work.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Who else is in this book? What other kind of stories can we expect throughout it?
Yeah, so Brent Fisher, just a monster writer. He teamed with Fellhound on there, and really they both have a really great following. So we knew they would be good to have in the anthology. As I say, Carolyn Leelane from Money Shot. I was already a big fan of Carolyn's, and when I saw her and Rachel Suze put a story through, I was like, holy shit, that's Carolyn Leelane. Like, what the hell is she doing in my anthology?
Yeah.
So it was really kind of fun to see that. Tango, who's done some work with Kevin Smith on Quick Stops, is really cool.
Yep.
Really stellar art style. So that was really fun to get her submission along with Noah Stevens. And then the Kevin Smith thing happened later, but I was like, holy crap, like some of these creators are already blowing up, like doing
Yeah.
some
Right.
serious work for
Yeah.
Dark Horse. Like working with Kevin Smith is like a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. For
So
sure.
I was really
Yeah.
impressed to see that. And I mean, Sid Mills, who's just a fantastic fantasy artist, and Taylor Esposito teamed with me to do a short in there as well. And it was kind of my first attempt at doing anything kind of prosy, and try to add a little bit of text over some still images. So that was really fun and kind of a highlight for me, because Sid has just done some spectacular stuff. If you've ever looked at their Instagram account, it's just like filled with all these visually captivating images. So I knew that I really wanted to work with her at some point. So that was a really cool endeavor. And I mean, and the talent just goes on and on. Ben Humenick from Brody Can't Be Broken, Band of Bards. He had that awesome, oversized, like heavy metal kind of formatted magazine style that he released through Band of Bards. Really fun take on a superhero story. We talked about people doing things a little different with superheroes. That was Brody Can't Be Broken. It was a really, really cool story. So it was great to have him in there. Doug Wood and Federica Mankin, they did a great story. This might, as of now, is Doug Wood's last piece that he's doing in comics since he's retired due to health issues. So that's been tough. He's a really good guy and a talented writer, and talk about knocking it out of the park in terms of submission quality. He knows how to pitch really, really well. So that's kind of heavy and weighty, but I'm hoping that when we send him his comps, maybe he'll feel better and it'll inspire him to come back, because he's definitely a needed voice in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just some really good talent. Travis Behill, Damian Becton, all their artistic partners, and all the stories are really unique and fun and visually captivating. For me, I'm an art snob. Like, if the comic doesn't
Mm-hmm.
look good, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like it. It has to look good.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're the best writer in the world. Like unless, and if it doesn't look good, I mean, even if it's Jonathan Hickman or somebody, if I don't really like the art, I'm not gonna pick it up. Like, I'm looking at
Yeah.
that comic on
For
the
sure.
shelf. I have to be like, oh shit, that looks good. And if it's a writer that I know whose work I enjoy, even better. But it's that
Yeah.
1-2 punch. But art sells the story. So that's why we really tried to find art writers that teamed with spectacular artists, so we could try to sell this, because if it looked like shit, we wouldn't get any funding
Right. Right.
on Kickstarter, right? Yeah.
Yeah. True that.
So I guess my last big question, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little
Yeah,
bit.
man.
So you're partnering up a Band of Bards. You're with a publisher. People, I've been known to have this criticism before. Have the criticism of, you have a publisher, why are you going on Kickstarter? And if there is a publisher, why am I backing the Kickstarter? So I guess, can you answer that? Can you say, like, why are you on Kickstarter, and what is the benefit of people going to the Kickstarter as opposed to waiting for it to hit their comic shops?
There's really no money in the direct market unless you can hit a certain sales threshold. So we want to make sure that everybody gets paid that's contributed. We promised page rates for this. The only way to hit those page rates out the gate is to go through Kickstarter, and that's why you see and also there's just not a lot of comic shops anymore. We have, I think the number is like 2,000 comic shops in between North America, U.S., Canada, the U.K., and I'm throwing Australia in there too for the English speaking
Mm-hmm.
places where you can sell comics. That's not a lot. And we're
Right.
really missing a huge segment of people in rural America too. So if you look, from West Coast to East Coast, in the center, there's not a lot of people, and so there's not a lot of comic shops, but there's people that like comics and would like access to them. So I feel like you have to have Kickstarter. You almost have to do both to make enough money to make these work in this day and age. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish we didn't need Kickstarter, but we kind of do to keep people afloat. But I'm really big on incenting people for that, though. If we do 2 editions, like I said, the stuff that I work on has different covers to it. Like you're going to get something different for each one. So that way, hopefully it'll attract people to not be like, oh, why is this guy re-releasing this in the direct market? He already did a Kickstarter, and hopefully incent people too to say, oh wow, he's actually giving me something new as well. I can actually get like a Fellhound cover with this instead of the Carolyn Leland cover that I got before. So that's kind of it. I mean, I've seen top, all the publishers are pretty much doing it except the big,
Oh yeah,
even, Top
yeah.
Cow,
Everyone's doing it.
Scout, like it's the only way really to make enough margin to pay creators. And I think it gets a bad rap, but I feel like knowing that a lot of that money goes to creators is really helpful because there's not a lot left over in the direct market because the margins are thinner because you have distribution in there taking a huge chunk of that money. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I wish it wasn't the case, but you kind of have to do both. And if you're not, I'm actually encouraging a lot of creators to do both because I just don't know how you're going to make money otherwise to stay afloat.
Yeah, I understand creators doing it. I have an issue with publishers doing it. But just to clarify, so the direct market version of this, if it comes out, um, you'll be doing different covers for it.
That's not clarified yet, but my preference would be, and I'd like us to, all of my stuff that I've done with Epic Fantasy and things that I've pushed out in the direct market, those will have different covers or have had different covers.
Mhm.
Because I don't own this, I'm the curator. I'm hopeful that we can just do a different cover though, because it would be really inexpensive to do, and we can give people in the direct market kind of an added treat, something different that they'll see. So I don't want to speak for Band of Bards, but I'm going to say that I'm going to push them to do a different cover.
And
Awesome.
honestly, reason to double dip.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Just to
Yeah.
be honest with everybody else, like
Yeah.
I've
If I'm
done
a
it before,
collector. Yeah, right. I've done that too for sure. Oh, I
Yeah,
need that cover. Damn it. Like, come on.
especially
yeah,
creators I like.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if it was just my comic and it wasn't an anthology, I'd say 100%. Like, we're going to do that, but I'll talk them into it. Don't worry. I'll make sure that they
Yeah.
do it.
Awesome. Well, I think, like you said, it looks visually stunning. All the pages, the art that's up there, each story is very individual in itself. You don't see like a lot of repeat of the same colors and just the line work and stuff like that. I mean, each story looks fabulous and different just by looking at each page, like different tones and things like that. You can tell just from right off the bat. Um, yeah, I think it looks great. You have almost 20 days left, but we still need about 15,000. So everybody go out there, pledge, pledge, pledge.
Yeah, we need
Yeah,
need a
back the
lot.
project. Yeah,
Need a lot of money. It's been a little bit of a grind. I don't know what it is. I've been talking to other people that have been successful with it with Kickstarter, and they're like, part of it might be time of year, um, economic factors. People are waiting for tax returns,
yep,
and
yep,
Twitter, which was a hugely. I feel like a lot of people thought their success derived from Twitter originally, like, and maybe that
yeah,
wasn't the case, or the algorithm is a little screwed up right now. But we're finding we're just not getting a lot of retweets. But like today, for instance, I put out my kind of standard every 6 months. I update publisher lists for who's accepting open submissions. Well, that's been going viral. Like it has hundreds and hundreds of tweets and retweets. So I'm like, well, shit, people see this. Like, why
yeah,
aren't you
right.
getting any likes on my other shit?
Yeah, exactly.
I,
Yeah,
I think, I mean, it's well known my thought on this channel, but I think people overvalue Twitter way too
Yeah,
much.
me too.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think even back in the day when it was all when they were getting like thousands of retweets, I'm like, yeah, but like how many of them were bots? Come on, like we all
Well,
yeah.
know.
Like you
We
gotta, you
all
that's
gotta,
the
know.
thing.
you gotta know it's a person there, right? Too. That's
Or
the problem.
Yeah,
views. Like the views
Yeah,
that I'm supposedly getting, is that really a person or is that
yeah,
bullshit?
right.
Like, because
well,
from my standpoint, when I'm looking at something and I see and I'm following somebody, I'm typically, unless it's like heinous or something I don't like, I'm typically
Right,
liking their posts. So I
right.
just can't imagine scrolling through and being like, that's bullshit. That's
Yeah,
bullshit. I'm
right,
not gonna
right.
like that. Like, I don't know.
It's like an
Kind of
auto
weird.
scrolling thing happening or something.
yeah, and listen, I'm I'm like really into researching mostly the podcast space, but the YouTube space, they kind of intermingle these days.
Yeah.
And it's well known with even like big podcasters will say like, I post on Twitter because you have to, but like
Right. Yeah.
nobody's clicking through. Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not getting traffic from that.
It's so strange.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think Facebook too, that almost killed it when they started having you like pay for post submissions to like reach people. They're like, oh, if you give us $20, you'll reach 2,000 people. And it's like, how do you know that?
Yeah, it's like
You know?
IG. Yeah,
Yeah.
on Instagram, it's the same thing. You got to boost your post, and we decided to try it. We're like, let's invest a little bit of money and see if we can do it. We've already spent a lot of money on this. Let's just throw
Right.
$100 into this and see what we can get. And we've gotten some people. And if we can break even on that, I guess it was worth it, you know, because I think we're at like $75 from contributors too. To it from our marketing on Instagram. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
what's funny about that though is, and I mean, behind the scenes, everybody, I can direct you to some people, but it's known that you put in so much every week. You might not, let's say you put in $100 week one, you might not get $100 back, but week two, you might get $120 because you put in $100 week two, and it'll grow every week. Because people like Facebook ads work really well, and people are known. There's like a number. I think it's 7 times they have to see the ad before they'll click.
That's crazy.
There's some psychology behind it. That's
Yeah.
you have to keep doing it is the problem.
That's interesting.
The hard part's to keep investing your money though, because like, you know, the 4th or 5th time you're like, well, shit, nobody clicked it yet. Why should I keep doing it?
Oh yeah,
it's tough in our space because I do a new episode every week, as opposed to like you're going to be on this Kickstarter for a month or 2 months, however long you decide to do it. So for me, like I can't keep putting in X amount of dollars every week because I'm putting X amount of dollars into a new thing every week.
Yeah,
which makes it harder. But for comics, especially Kickstarters, it works really well.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unaffordable to do it all the time. That's why we were like, oh, let's just try once. But that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. But I believe it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because they want to entice you to keep putting in money. So yeah.
Right.
There's also just psychology behind how people interact with ads too. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, hopefully our interaction here will get more people to back the Kickstarter. That's what I'm hoping. So you know, CJ, we're glad to have you on today, and thanks so much for stopping by. Where can we send people if they want? I mean, you could tell them where to go for the Kickstarter, but to follow you and all the stuff you're doing, your Twitter probably, right?
Twitter would be great. At Siege the Hudson, Band of Bards would be great too. They're marketing it, so at Band of Bards, either one of us would be awesome. Or Brent Fisher is at Carol Collector, so he's also curating it right now, stepping in for Elise. So yeah, I mean, any of us, we're all marketing it. All the creators are. So if you follow any of those creators, you've probably seen it. But yeah, help us out, get off the sidelines, even contribute $1. I'll send you some free. Well, it's not free; it's $1, but I'll send you some shit.
It's shit, but yeah, you get some shit for $1. It's not free, but yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah.
Might as well be free. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's $1.
$1. What the hell? Let's go. Yeah,
you get anything for $1. Yeah.
Exactly. Come on, that's awesome. All right, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah,
and to everybody out there listening, watching, however you're consuming this. As always, check the show notes down below. I'll have links to all CJ's stuff. Most importantly, this Kickstarter. So you can click on it, check it out yourself. And CJ, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate your time. And we can't wait to have you back, man. It's a blast talking to you.
Absolutely.